Ray Dorsett, and my wife's name is Colson Dorsett. We have been married for almost 43 years and have been a part of this church for 40 years. We have been involved in the church in teaching. I've been on the elder board, I've been on mission committees, I've been on strategic planning, been involved in search committees for pastors and a lot of things. So we've been involved for a long time. We first came here in 1977, and it was a much smaller church at that time. Our children, we have two children, Andrea and David, and they were raised in this church. While we had kind of primary responsibility for being their parents, I would say that there were many wonderful families that participated and supported their growth in the faith. And so that's kind of our story. Oh, I should say one other thing. I'll just add this. You can edit this on. As a background, we are retired from a 40-year career in film and television and media production and distribution around the world. And while we're retired, we're not as actively involved in doing that, but we are very involved in international ministries. Well, it should be very clear that we really didn't take the initiative to start the Chinese church. I mean, this has always been on God's heart, and He loves people from every tribe and nation. And so it was His initiative because He so loved the world. But our involvement probably started in 1970. I was raised in a family that was intentional about cross-cultural relationships. My parents lived one block away from the university, Wichita State University, and they intentionally asked international students to come to their home and be friends and help them in their lives. And so in 1970, my parents asked a young Chinese student from Shanghai if he would like to go to Thanksgiving dinner in western Kansas with the rest of my family. His name was Richard Long. He was, like I said, 19 years old, an aeronautical engineering student, just finding his way here in Wichita. When my wife and I returned from Africa in 1975, we asked Richard and Anita if they would be in our wedding. Later, we were in their wedding when we both had children. We were there for each other with that. We were involved in raising each other's kids and loving each other's kids. So that started in 1975. We asked Richard and Anita if they would be interested in joining us in a small group Bible study with 6 people. And so we studied the Bible and memorized and meditated verses and studied for 5 years together. In about 1980, we started an international student Bible study, and we had people from every country almost. I mean, we had people from everywhere who were part of the study. Eventually, it became more and more Chinese students, and many people came to Christ. And about that time, probably in the early 80s, 1982 or so, Richard and Anita were among leaders on Friday night Chinese fellowship, and that's kind of the beginning of it. Of course, there were other people like Lo Ping and Don Ho who were very involved early on as well. We had great encouragement from Jim and Arlene Liu, who were among the leaders in the church at that time, and Ken and Molly Ho. And so they encouraged us with our personal ministries, and that's how we started. I've been on the elder board for many years in the church, and because I had such a heart for Chinese people in the Chinese ministry, and Richard and Anita continue to be among our very closest friends, though they live in Seattle. When I saw that God was moving in and through the Chinese ministry, along with Pastor Dick High and Jim Gustafson, who was also an elder, I encouraged the church to extend an invitation to the Chinese Fellowship Ministry to stay here in this place and not move to somewhere else. And we also encouraged the church to fund or underwrite the hiring of the first Chinese pastor, Pastor John Nee. And then I served on the search committee along with other co-workers to find Pastor Nee as the first pastor.
Why do you feel like that's God's move to do this? Like what kind of vision do you have there?
Well, I think it's always important to see where God is moving and where He's historically been moving. And I told the elder board, I said, when we were talking about strategic direction, I said one of the clear places that God has been moving for a long time is in ministry with the Chinese. I mean, it goes back a long time. And I think we need to be proactive and strongly encourage the growth of this ministry. And the elders were supportive of that, and that's how that started. Yes, Sharon, I would say that one of the most important things I would say is that please don't build another Great Wall of China around the ministry. One of the things I would say about Richard and Anita Wong is that they took initiative with people throughout the whole church. They got involved. They were Awana leaders for decades. Richard was a trustee in the church. And so they formed friendships, even across culture, with a lot of people. And I think that was very important. So while I love the Chinese ministry and fellowship, please see the world as bigger than just the Chinese fellowship. There's so many opportunities beyond just these walls. My wife and I we have a cross-cultural marriage. My wife is from a different country, a different race, different languages, but we've been happily married for 43 years. And I strongly encourage us. Jesus set examples for us. He befriended people who were Samaritans. He befriended Roman leadership, among the Roman centurion. He became friends with lepers and tax collectors and called them into leadership and service. He was intentional about involvement with people who had various addictions and all kinds of things. So my encouragement is don't be bound by the walls of your own ministry. And then I'd encourage you one other thing, and that would be thankful for, appreciate that this ministry, this Chinese ministry, has already planted seeds in many places beyond Wichita. Students go on from here. Young couples go on from here. Robert and Nisa Wu, a couple that came to Christ 30 plus years ago, moved to Austin, Texas, and have been very involved in the Chinese ministry in Austin, a church in Austin, Texas. Then Philip and Nancy Chow came to Christ in this ministry here in Wichita, but moved on to Mesa, Arizona, and where they are been leaders in the church, the Chinese church in Mesa. Of course, Richard and Anita Wong have moved on to Seattle, where they're very active in the evangelical Chinese church up there, very involved in leadership. So see the seeds and as flung far beyond just this church.
That's it?
Well, I might have something else to say too. Well, I agree with you and Daniel about this whole idea of building the core around families, but not exclusively.
Mm-hmm.
There's real opportunities. Then the last thing is unleash the church. The ministry, Pastor Daniel and Sharon are doing a great job with building and equipping people, but they equip them for the purpose of their own personal ministries. So please understand that all of you are ambassadors for Christ, whether it's in your neighborhood, in your place of work, wherever the Lord might take you, and be actively involved in that. And I also think you have great opportunities. You have natural relationships in China, in Taiwan, in many other places around the world where there are Chinese populations. After all, it's nearly 16% of the world's population is Chinese, or 17%, something of that magnitude. And so see, again, the ministry as far as really a world vision, far beyond just Wichita, Kansas. Try to consider how there might be ministry opportunities in the countries of origin and beyond.